So I'm here with Kevin Niebur, and Kevin is a mostly grain farmer, few head of cattle, right?
Yep, steers, yep.
And then you've been a long time Pioneer dealer, right?
Yeah, Dad started in '82, and I'm still doing it. So.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're nowadays you're more of a John Deere farm, right?
Yeah, we went. Yeah, we were all Oliver growing up, and I'd say in about the '80s, Dad bought a. It just got to be driving to Meesville for parts, where his brothers had the implement. We were all Oliver. I mean, Dad's brothers started the implement in Meesville, and we moved here in '66. We had some diesel 88, 77. And he bought this tractor, the 1864. The only new tractor he ever bought. And that was our biggest tractor till probably the 80s. You think he bought a white 105.
Okay.
And then first John Deere we bought was a 4230. I mean, it was just changing. I mean, Oliver, when White took over, the John Deere was holding the value.
Well, yeah, because you had. So we should back up. So your uncle was an Oliver dealer.
Yep.
In Meesville,
Yep.
Minnesota, which other side of the river,
Yep.
west of us here.
Yep.
And your dad also farmed in the area, right?
Yeah. When he got out of the service, he was farming my grandma's farm in Hampton there, and then in '66, it was super dry, and he was looking. He had a farm bought from a neighbor, and then that fell through. And so then he came down here looking for farms, and he drove up the hill, and the crops were green. He said, "I'm buying this one,"
Yep.
And so, we moved down here in '66, and like I said, we were all Oliver until we started dabbling in the John Deere a little bit. He bought a 4040, which I still run. And it just the resale value of the John Deere, You trade a John Deere, and 10 years later, you almost got what you paid for it,
Well, yeah, because Oliver was then purchased by White in, late 60s?
Yep.
And then they bought Minneapolis Moline and Cockshut and all that. Yeah, White got in trouble.
Yep.
And then they were, I think, they merged with, or Allied purchased them or something, right?
And then later went to AgCo. I mean, we had, like I said, we had bought a 260, so it was actually a Fiat, and the 105, which was our biggest tractor, but that probably only had 1,600 hours on, the engine went.
That was a Perkins in that, right?
Yeah, and then Meesville came and got it, Niebur implement, and they brought Dad a 2155 out to use. It was springtime.
Yep.
Well, then that never left. But I think that one I can still remember in the cab, 2,000 hours, we put rings and pistons in that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, their motors weren't.
That was a Hercules in that, right?
Yeah, and then we had a 2135 front wheel assist. That had a Hercules in. That was a good tractor.
Okay.
That was, I sold that 3-4 years ago to a guy in Minnesota just because I didn't use it anymore. It was unhandy for anything. It wasn't a good auger tractor. It was just a big brute of a tractor,
Yep.
And so I sold that to buy that.
Okay.
Just so I could have that 1950.
Yep.
Because I was a kid, the first time I heard that, I just said, I'm going to have that one day.
So was there some 1950s and 1900s around Meesville or around, or you were around?
No, I mean, I was only 3 when we left there. I heard them around here.
Okay.
You would, back when farmers did tractor pulls.
Well, yeah.
The old school stuff. And the first time I heard one was, it was a 99 up at the Ellsworth Fair, the Super 99.
Yep.
And
most pulled that 990.
Yep.
For years.
990, that's what I was thinking of, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I just fell in love with it, and when I sold that 135, Preisel tractor doctor over there had this, and I just said, well, I'm having it.
Yeah.
So about 3 times a year, I put a straight pipe on it, so about 3 times a year I grind feed with it, or used to put it on the auger and just make everybody that lives in this place very unhappy. Because, I mean, she just bellers.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's, you know, that means, you know, I guess it's my hobby, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have a cabin, don't have a
Right.
boat, don't have a camper.
Right.
So I got a tractor, you know. But, yeah, this was our, like I said, this was our biggest tractor till, I think, the 105. And then a local mechanic overhauled it at 10,000 hours. Otherwise, we hadn't touched that tractor.
That's a Waukesha, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's 310.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Was it always a narrow front?
Dad, when he bought it, was a narrow front. And then sometime after he moved here, I was too little, don't remember, he put the wide front on, which is sitting right there.
Okay.
And a number of years ago, I knew the narrow front was still here. And I found it over the other farm. And so then I decided to put it back to the way it was.
Yep.
And because in my house, there's two pictures, one of me and Mom the day he brought it home, and one of me and Dad. I was 1 year old.
Yep.
So I want to do that picture again, you know. And so it's all back to original. It didn't have the weights on when he bought it. And the only thing that's different is the fender's on backwards.
Oh, really?
Well, he had a one-row picker. And he said when he turned and looked, the fender was in the way. So he flopped the fenders.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. There's only been one guy that's ever noticed that in this
I was going to
tractor.
say they looked a little weird, but...
Yeah, well, especially if you look at the ones next to it, you know, you can see it. But everybody said, well, why don't you put it back, Kevin? I said, well, I got to change the lights and everything like that. So that's the uniqueness of it, you know. Dad did that to make life easier for him, you know.
Yep.
And we had, you know, when growing up, milking cows, we had a year-round cab on this, the home manure in the winter and stuff. I mean,
Yep.
it was our everything tractor. When I was little, Mom used to be baling hay or whatever. With that seat, she could sit me in there backwards, and I'd be there all day long because I couldn't go anywhere. It was like a built-in car seat, you know. But yeah, it was. I mean, so after my mom died in 2010, maybe it was 9, I can't remember for sure. But I went, and my dad had a stroke, and he'd been battling prostate cancer for years and was on his end. So I got this restored for him.
Yep.
You know, and he did. That one year I planted oats right across from his house. And so he did make one round from one end of the field in it and back, paint it back up. So, But yeah, it's just been, you know, just been my favorite tractor. I mean, I grew up with this tractor, and, you know, I just love the narrow front.
Yeah.
The look.
That's
And the thing was, I took it down to Claire Repair down there, and I said, go through the bearings and stuff. And when he said it was done, they painted it up for me. And I said, how were the bearings? He said, Kevin, we just started pumping grease so the old stuff come out. They're smooth as can be. I mean, that narrow front probably only was used 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So it's got no wear and tear on it.
Huh.
You know, so it's...
Did when your dad bought it, did he get a plow with it? Because a lot of times, you get a bigger tractor, you'd buy a bigger plow, right?
We had a plow, but I can't remember. The first one I remember was a white 5 or 6 bottom plow, but we had a bigger tractor. So I don't remember what, you know, as a youngster, what he had for a plow behind it.
Because Oliver was famous for their plows.
Yeah, we had a good plow. And see, in '66, when he bought this, I always asked him, I said, well, how'd you get the equipment over here? I drove it. You know, he made a few trips with this to haul. I mean, he didn't have a lot. He had, you know, flail chopper, some wagons, you know, your haying equipment and stuff. He didn't have a lot of equipment. But he said he just drove this home.
Huh.
You know? And then we had an 88 diesel. He drove it because growing up, we had 3 tractors. We had this, we had an 88 diesel, and a 77 gas. Those were our 3 tractors till we started adding more. And this one he bought to run, we had an Oliver baler. You remember the belts in the back for throwing?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they never threw good enough. Well, this one, the PTO was only like 1,600 RPMs. So you could run this up to 2,500 if you put a wire around the throttle so he could speed up the thrower. You know, this came from Niebur's too. But then the 77 started knocking, so then he bought that 88 right there.
Okay.
And that used to be the chopper box wagon, you know, because to pull in by the silos, which are gone now, but the silos were behind the granary. It's a perfect tractor for unloading because the PTO was right there.
Yep.
It was a nice short tractor. Yeah, it worked great. But
Well, I suppose you wanted a gas burner for hauling manure, right?
no, we never hauled manure with that much at all.
Okay.
No. I mean, this was the manure. Growing up as a kid and we were milking, this was the manure hauling tractor. Used to have a loader on this one.
Did you blend a little kerosene in it?
I don't know what he did. I mean, listen, when I was a teenager, I was just mad I had to milk cows and get in this thing,
So when was the cab added? Was it added pretty new?
No. He went to an auction. There was an 1850 at the auction, and he went to he wanted the cab. For some reason they were selling the cab separate or something. But he came home with the tractor because it went so cheap. So we took the cab off the 1850 and we put it on here because he wanted it on this tractor.
Yep.
The 1850, I think he traded that off on the first John Deere. Can't remember what the issues were on that. And then we had a 1855. Al Hurley years ago had a white dealership in Plum City.
Oh, really?
And I think it was a Perkins on D by Ockers there that had an 1855 for sale. And I talked Dad into buying it. And I mean, they were famous for blowing head gaskets.
Yep.
And then I think we traded that off on, might have been the 7410 or the 4040. But yeah, it was, I just always loved Olivers. They were way ahead of their time. They just got screwed up when White took it over. Yeah. And, this is a Model C. The Model A's, I think it was, they put the oil pump like on the very front of the bottom of the engine.
Yep.
Guys are going up hills, you'd lose oil pressure. And I think the B's, the transmissions were junk. And like I said, this thing here, Dad added a hydropower to it. I know we put a new PTO in once, and we overhauled it at 10,000 hours. Otherwise, I mean, it was a workhorse. It did everything.
Because the early ones, that was the checkerboard or whatever?
Yep, the A was a checkerboard.
Okay.
And, this came out about the same time as your 3000 and 4000s.
Yep.
And John Deere had an engine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, that was, I always say that was Oliver's downfall. Plus White, when they took it over, they just screwed it all up.
Well, they didn't have enough money to do it, so they just kept buying engines from, whatever they could.
Because we bought a 6145 front wheel assist Agco White. And just the only reason Dad bought it, he wanted the John Deere, but it was $40,000 cheaper. Well, after 3 years of me spending $4,000 because the solenoids, the electronics were junk on it, and the parking brake was way down here. And twice Dad put it in gear with the parking brake on.
And burnt it up.
Bent the forks all to hell.
Yeah.
So, and finally, I said to Dad one year, it was 2011, I said, I'm sick of this tractor. I said, there's an 8300 over at John Deere. And I said, let's go over and look at that. And so we traded that off on the 8300. And I always tell, because we ran the loan through him at the time for the Blue Goose Farms, I always tell everybody, yeah, he bought that tractor and never made a payment. Died next March. I mean, I was going to make the payments, but still, it's a good story. But,
well, and those were good tractors. It's funny though, that 6145, I've heard a lot of problems with that 6100 series White.
Yep.
But yet the workhorse that was before them
are
beloved.
Yes.
They're worth a ton of money if you've got
the workhorses, they had the Cummins engine in.
Yeah.
The 195s and stuff. But the 6 series, the electronics were terrible. I mean, like I said, 3 years in a row, I had to put new solenoids and stuff. It was like $4,000 a year. I told Dad, it's got to go. Should have spent the money on the John Deere at the time, but.
Would that have been the last tractor you bought from your uncle?
No, that one we actually bought from the tractor doctor.
Oh, really?
My uncle was out of it by then, and his son was running it, and he told us not to buy it. He told Dad, you're not going to be happy with this tractor. but it was $40,000 less than the John Deere we wanted.
Yeah.
And in the end, we spent money on it, and we traded off of the John Deere, and within 3 days, they had shipped it to Canada. Tractor
Really?
Central did. Yeah, so, but it was just, that was probably my least favorite tractor that we ever had, but yeah.
So when did your cousin quit selling white then?
Right around the time my Uncle Omer, his dad, died. And I can't remember, I want to say it had to be the early 90s, I think, is when Omer passed away. No, maybe it was, no, it wasn't the 90s. Yeah, it might have been sometime in the 90s, and he went to the Kubota
Yep.
line, and that's just been a great line for him. I mean, I think he's seen the writing on the wall that, the white tractors and equipment just wasn't selling,
Well, and Werner's also kind of got out of it around the
Yeah, Werner's,
same time.
Yeah, they all did, and it was, just well, it was. I mean, there used to be a white dealership in Red Wing. I can't remember the name of that one, but
Wasn't there one in Hammond or something too at one point?
yeah, and there was. I know we went and looked at a tractor once up in when we bought the 135. We went and looked at one up north,
Ridgeland?
Ridgeland. Yep.
And they're
Ridgeland.
still, they were, I think they're still AGCO. I
Are
think.
they?
Because it was the co-op. That,
Yep, it was the co-op. Yep. Yeah. So, like I said, it's, I just this tractor. I just have so many memories of it, and it's the only brand new tractor this farm has ever bought.
Yeah.
In 1964, he paid $6,400. And I remember the old guys, the old farmers, when he drove home, he always told the story, no man needs a tractor that big. And it was 80 horse,
Yeah.
80 horse. That's a garden tractor now,
Well, I always laugh about my grandpa. When we got at Mom and Dad's, we had that 1466. And my grandpa, we asked him to go bale some hay. And that 1466 was on the baler. And he goes, I don't want to bale with that big tractor. In a 1466 today, people run augers. And
Yep.
And Grandpa's like, I'm not driving that big tractor. And we're like, Grandpa, we're not going to unhook it. Because he wanted the 656 on there.
Yep.
And he goes, no, I don't want to go and run. Just take it. And he kind of protested and took it and drove out to the field. You heard him start PTO. He went just, 200 feet. All at once, the baler stops and hear the tractor shut off. Grandpa comes walking into the yard and just walks right by me and Dad, and he goes, yep, that big tractor plugged the baler. It was the tractor's fault.
The tractor's fault.
See,
Yeah.
you don't need a big tractor like that.
I remember Dad, he went to 4-row narrow after 4-row wide. He thought that was the answer because he could still run the 4400 John Deere combine we had.
Yep.
And he did that for 2 years, and he realized that's like planting 3 rows at a time.
Right.
So then we went to the 6-row, and I know the one year we narrowed this up so he could plant corn with it. And then he went to the 4040, and I was using the 4240 for tillage work. It was the next size tractor we had, which had a cab on it. And all of a sudden, that one year, he's like, everybody around me is planting corn with a cab. Why the hell am I sitting out here? So then we put that on the planting tractor, and we kept that one. We traded off on the 7410. But we had good luck with I can't say the 4230. He traded that off on the 4240. The engine started knocking and was going on that.
Okay.
4230, and that thing. Oh, that was a terrible starter in the winter.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah, you could plug it in for 6 days. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
You had to ether the hell out of it, but we've had good luck with John Deere.
So right after high school, did you start farming?
I graduated high school, and there was no way I was going to farm. 7 days a week, my whole life, I was up doing chores. I'm going to college. I'm going to be a teacher. Sure, a year or so of that, and they kindly informed me my presence there was no longer required, that I had a lease up in Eau Claire yet, and I told Dad, I said, well, I'm going to go to Votech for farming. And that's when I decided I was going to farm, you know. But I mean, I grew up loving the cows. I loved milking cows. I hated field work. And you put me in a tractor, I couldn't rake a field without falling asleep.
That's probably because you were out too late.
Well, we didn't just bring that up. You know, there was that too.
I know I fell asleep cutting hay and cut kitty corner across
Yeah.
the field
Yeah,
once.
yeah. You know, but it was, you know, but my dad, you know, I always remember sometimes he'd be out in the field planting or whatever, and the tractor would be stopped. You know, go over there, he's sound asleep on the ground. And he says, you just take a 10, 15-minute nap and you're good to go. And then, you know, my back blew out in '09, and I was still milking cows, had to have surgery, and, you know, couldn't take the time off, so never healed right. And then milk prices went to $9 for the second time since I had the cows. And I just said, screw it, you win. I told Dad, I'm done. You know, I wasn't selling seed full time then anymore. I was kind of just helping a guy out that was doing the dealership. Then I took that back over, and yeah, and now I can be in a tractor, the combine, 16 hours a day. It doesn't bother me a bit. You know?
Yeah.
And I do not I think Mike's real sold his cows a year before me, because we kind of all sold out at the same time, a bunch of us. And I don't miss it one damn bit. I mean, the next day after we tore the stalls out, the pipeline out after the auction, there was no way I was going back at it. You know.
So then, so you were, what, probably 20 when you came back
Yeah,
to the farm?
21. Yep.
So was that,
20.
so that was in the 80s then, right?
Yeah, I graduated in '81.
So,
So I mean, I remember the '80s, the farm economy, but it really didn't affect me because, like I said, I was 17, 18, 19.
yep,
More important things.
right.
You know. But you know, those were tough times. Those were tough times. You know, a lot of guys lost their farms. And,
But the dairy was probably what kept everybody going.
well, I remember Dad that one time, you know, when milk prices had dropped after I bought the cows and the farm in '97, he said, you know, you're getting the same price for milk that I got 30 years ago, basically. Mm-hmm. But it was the inputs, you know, that, you know, $9 milk or $8 milk, you know, in the 60s, early 70s, you know, you weren't paying $300 a ton for soybean meal, and I mean, you know, gas, everything was cheap. I mean, when I turned 16 and got my license, gas just hit $1.
Yeah.
That's when it hit $1. Otherwise, I mean, inputs would kill us now.
Well, and I mean, look, he paid $6,400 for a brand new tractor, and I don't know how much he paid for the farm, but I bet it was what, 200, 300 an acre, maybe.
I think he got all this for around 60,000, and in '74 he bought the farm in Salem, 240 acres. Bought that for 80,000,
Yeah.
300 an acre.
Yeah.
And now you see land going for, you know, there's days I tell my kid, it's like, you know, I could just sell that farm and I could be quite happy.
Yeah.
You know, but it's, you know.
No, it's
I
crazy.
don't have any hobbies, Ryan. This is it.
Well, yeah. Well, and you shouldn't if you're going to be a farmer.
No, you can't.
My dad always said that. He goes, good farmer doesn't own a boat.
Nope.
And he meant it like in the livestock days when everybody had milk cows, but
Yep.
the idea was you're going to go boating or fishing on a nice sunny day. Well, a nice sunny day in the summertime, you better be making hay if you're milking cows, right?
Yeah. I mean, Dad, he always did his best that we would not work on Sundays. But technically we did, because you worked till 10 o'clock to get chores done so you get to church, and then you started up again around 4:30 or 5, so you got like 5-6 hours off.
Yeah.
But he tried to, you know, cut hay so we do get done Saturday. Saturday, you know, growing up when I was in high school, Dad said you can go out one night a weekend. I soon learned you don't go out Friday night. Because Saturday was pure hell. You know, because he was going to work twice as hard on Saturday because he was going to take 6 hours off on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I smartened up a little bit there, but yeah, it's...
Well, and I mean, with the dairy, like haying, I mean, nowadays, guys with dairy, cut all their hay, and in 2 days
It's all done.
it's done.
Yeah. I remember when we start first crop, most of that would go in the silo. And then I remember, this second crop, you might have got 5 days off between crops.
Yeah.
And then third, you got double whammied because you had hay and straw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we used to, on average, it was about 65 to 7,000 small squares we'd bale a year, and plus fill the one silo with hay.
What'd you guys run for a baler?
336 John Deere. After he
Yep.
got rid, he bought that in 77. Got
Okay.
rid of the Oliver.
Yep.
And I ran that till I quit milking.
Yep.
That was a great baler.
A lot of those balers were around.
Yeah. I mean, that pan was a little dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
I know one time Mom was baling and had a bale stuck or something, and they didn't shut the PT off. And Dad ended up against the hay rack, knocked out.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were, that pan was a little dangerous, but it was a good baler.
Yeah.
Good baler.
What'd you guys, for the rest of your hand equipment for chopping and stuff?
He had a Fox chopper when I was real younger.
Because Harmon sold Fox, right?
Yeah, Massey. Then he bought a Massey,
Okay.
260 Massey. It was a hell of a chopper, except the PTO shaft was junk. We constantly had trouble with that. And then we got rid of that, or I got rid of that when I bought the cows, and I bought a Gale. 10, can't remember.
65 maybe?
Yeah, with that yeah, 1065. That was a real good chopper. And then we ran, he had grown, when I first started cutting hay, it was with a Heston PT10.
Oh, yep.
Plug up all the time. He traded that off and bought a 1209 John Deere.
Yep.
And it's so nice. If it plugged, you lifted up, you backed up, and it unplugged. You weren't down there. It was, but as a kid, I still remember him on the 88 diesel. He had the sickle mower that was mounted underneath, and then the conditioner behind.
Oh, yeah.
Because I have memories of that.
Yep.
So that's how we started, until we went to the first. Then we went to a disc bine, and we got a disc bine now we run and stuff for the little bit of hay we do. But yeah, haying is so much, it's changed so much.
Oh, yeah.
Big square, round bale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
small
gosh.
squares, it was, you had to get a crew up here, kids,
Oh,
to help.
that's how you get snowmobiles and dirt bikes, was
Yep.
throwing small square bales.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that is true. That is true.
Like, kids won't
I
know
remember
what that was like.
when I was old enough to unload hay, the neighbor, Danny Anderson, was helping. And we were getting paid a penny a bale. So 100
A buck
bale,
a rack.
buck a rack. I remember when I put that first $100 in my savings account, I thought I had it made. Yeah, but it's just, it's just changed so much, the dairy. But the number of cows haven't gone down. They're just consolidated in about 4 farms,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's better, but I don't think it's going to change, really.
Well, at one time on this hill, let's see, there was us, Larson's, Couturi's, Jim Couturi, Amsberg's, Chilson. We had 7 milk trucks because we had seven dairies on this hill.
Yeah.
Not one of us sold the same creamery.
Really?
Dad started with DFA, or Mid-Am.
Yep, Mid-Am.
And then they went to DFA, and it was in probably early 2000s that DFA's price was terrible.
Yep.
Every newsletter was, we bought this company, we bought this one. And then so Ellsworth Burkle came out, and he ran a comparison of what they'd get paid. In just 6 months, it was $4,000. Well, on 45 cows, that was a chunk of money. And I didn't want to switch. That's when Dad said, even though Jeff Krause was our milk hauler and his uncle had hauled for us for years, it's still a business, and I switched to Ellsworth till for the last 4 or 5 years that I farmed. But like I said, when milk prices took a dump again, because the first time it happened to me after I bought the cows, it was 3 years before I would even want to answer the house phone or open the mail.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for the local vets, the feed mill, the local businesses. I mean, they carried me. They said, no, Kevin, we ain't worried about it. You'll pay us. But it took me 3 years to catch up from one bad year. So when
Yeah.
it happened again, the harvester was here when we got here. It was a blue roof.
Yep.
It was shot, and in the part of the barn that Dad added on in 71 when we put the pipeline in, the stanchions were all junk. The original stanchions are still in the barn that I raised calves in. They're solid as a rock. But that reconstituted metal they had back in the 70s, so I was looking at spending probably $40,000 or $50,000 to keep milking. And I had the back surgery every night. When I got in the house, I couldn't move. I was so sore. I just said, you know what? I quit.
Yeah.
The smartest thing I ever did. My wife always says she was so happy when I sold the cows. We're going to have all this free time. I took on 5 more jobs.
Yeah. That's no. It wouldn't be. I didn't mind the work of milking cows. It was like I said, the financial stress was the part that it's like you're doing all this work and going backwards.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah. I remember one of the first years, because I think it was like in the first 2 years I bought the cows, milk had went to $9.
2000, I think, was real bad.
2000. So I got my milk check. It was $451 because there was all these assignments.
Yep.
Farm credit. Dad was getting paid. Everybody else was getting paid. That was what my child support was. It was just a zero net check.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God Dad, he helped me out during those tough times, but it was tough. It was just, so the stress, you always hear, the suicide rate with farmers. I mean, I don't think people realize the stress it puts on you, because we don't want to be behind.
No.
You're out here working your butt off, and you just keep going further behind. And it's just, it's hard. It really is hard. But like I said, I enjoyed milking cows. I mean, milking cows, you'd get 10 days where it was just like going to a factory. Everything worked just fine.
Yep.
Then the one day you open the barn door and you hear that hissing sound. The gutter's full of water.
Yeah.
Or the silo unloader breaks. Or you get a couple cows with mastitis or something. And then that's when it was no fun.
No, I know. That when chores, like I always said, when chores were good, when everything just went like it should, chores weren't bad at all. It was just like, it's kind of like my wife wanted me to explain to her, or no, my dad was asking me about about floating gears in a semi. And I said, well, I can't tell you how to do it. I go, you just do it. That's how chores were. Somebody said, explain how you milked cows. You'd be like, well, I don't know. I mean, it was automatic. It was just sort of, you got up in the morning and did chores.
It was just a routine. I mean, when we used to snowmobile back in the day, my wife and me, and so we'd, take 3-4 days off in the winter, go up snowmobiling. I worked harder the week before we left than if I'd have stayed home, because I was getting all the extra stuff done for the guys that had to do milk and do the chores.
Yep.
I had notes behind every cow. I had notes for every situation. When you clean barn, there was like 10 steps, but it was just so nothing would go wrong.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we take vacation, we're paying somebody to do our work. So it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
You're spending money on vacation, and then you're paying somebody. I think the last time when I was milking cows, when we went to Mexico, I was paying the guy milking over $100 a day. Plus, then one of my buddies would clean the barn and, do this kind of stuff. And so, I don't know. It's just all changed. The whole dairy industry has changed. I mean, everything's, just gotten so modern.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the modern facilities and that they produce more milk just from the facility.
Yeah, well, and the genetics, they do all this testing. I mean, on the cattle, they almost know how good the calf's going to be before it's even born.
Yeah.
I mean, the dairies around here, I mean, they're putting out, 100 pounds of milk a day.
Yeah.
on 13, 14, 2,000 cows. That's crazy. I know the one summer, I wanted to boost milk production. I was going to milk 3 times a day. Had a high school kid.
Yep.
You never had to do back-to-back. That's why I had the schedule figured out. Well, about the second day he went back to school, that was enough of milking 3 times a day. You know.
I had to do it for, what did I do? It was almost 3 years I milked 3 times a day, and I did 19 of the 21 milkings.
That's tough.
And that was just, that's what you had to do to keep everything running. That was the only reason I did that was.
Yeah, and that's why I did it too. I mean, it was, you know, kind of the lean years, and I was trying to do something to generate more money, you know.
Did you ever think about like expanding, building a parlor? Or?
When I bought the farm in '97, for the first 5 years, every year that I had my end of the year meeting with Farm Credit, Kevin, you got to go to 100 cows. You got to go to 100 cows. You got to expand. You got to get bigger. And I just said, you know what? 50 cows ran this farm since '71 when Dad went from up to 50 cows. And I just refused to do it because I seen the rabbit hole it could create. I go to 100, then I got to go to 200. Then I got to have X amount of employees. And, you know, so it made it easier for me to walk away when I sold the cows. If I'd have went to 100 cows, you can't walk away.
No, because you end up with so much right tied up in the facility.
Yes, yep. Yeah, and I know a couple of years ago, my son looked into going through the county and getting a fancy steer shed. You know, way you raise steers, Dad, it's just be so much efficient if we had one shed and, you know, all nice and all this. And they had some good programs. I ended up finally telling them to forget it because I said to Luke, I said, I might not be raising them the way the most efficient people do, but everything here is paid for. I've got no overhead, you know. I mean, I'm taking baby calves that I buy, and in 17 months I'm selling them. So I don't think I don't do everything obviously the way they say you're supposed to do it. They got too much maybe room, but I told Luke, if I build a new shed with the little I'm making per animal, yeah, it's just no.
Then you're going to have to finish more.
Yes.
And then you end up chasing your tail.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, I was just dairy down in Stockholm for the last 5 years. I've been buying every one of their bull calves, Linders. And then we were gone in February on vacation, and Rick called me, a good friend of mine. He's completely blind, but he raises all the calves. And he said, well, the prices are going up. And he wanted like 400 a calf. Yeah, whatever. Well, there's 600 a calf now. 600, and then so I quit buying in June because, well, every 5 calves was $3,000.
Yeah.
You got to have cash flow.
Yeah.
And then you're hoping 16, 17 months from now, the fat price is still going to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, cheap corn helps, but I mean, I raise steers through, I put $7 corn through my steers too.
Yeah.
But this summer, with the way they were for feeders, that one group I sold all they were was castrated. They weren't dehorned. They weren't implanted. They weren't wormed. They weren't vaccinated. They were 340 pounds. I sold 12 of them down Lanesboro, over $1,100 a piece. Why should I raise them?
Well, right.
You know. So I usually had about 130, 40 head around here. So we're down a little bit just because since June, I just bought my first 2 calves since June today from him because he had some. I told him I was going to get some for winter again, but $1,200, 2 calves.
Ugh.
One's 2 days old, one's 4 days old.
Huh.
Yeah, it's quite a. But I don't know. We'll see what the beef market goes. They say it's going to stay there, but I've seen it before where, years ago I was buying from a different dairy and calves, and there was they got to like $300-400, and then when you got the fats, they were like 70 cents.
Yeah.
Is that because your profit? I mean, steers to me on this farm are like a savings account. I don't raise enough where I can't make a living on it. I'd say you got to have probably 500 minimum.
Yep.
Because even though the facilities is paid for, but for 500, I couldn't raise them here.
Right.
And so, it just, that's the way I look at it. It's just another source of income.
Yeah.
Because I got rid of we always had steers at the other farm that you're going to tile there. Because Dad always kept the bull calves, and we had 30, 40 steers over there all the time. And then I remember when I quit milking, I told Dad, well, let's move the steers home. Because I had to drive the feed mill over there once a week to fill the stuffers. We had a silo with corn silage in without a roof on. So in winter, you were with a pickaxe.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we've always had steers over there. We're going to keep them there. And I remember it was 2012. He died in March. In June, I think I only had 12 left over there. And me and my friend Roland went over to get him, to haul him home. He says, your old man is cursing us out now. But once he sold the cows, every morning, he'd get up, when they moved down to the new house they built, he'd have his coffee, and he'd drive over to their farm and check on the steers. He'd come in the barn about 7:30 when I was almost done milking, not to ask me what we were doing for the day, to tell me what we were doing for the day. That's the one thing that made it work, is that even when I bought the cows, nothing changed.
Yeah.
There was still one boss. We're cutting hay today. You're baling today. We're doing whatever, and we just got along good that way. I mean, it worked out good, and so it was, like I said. I mean, he built the place. It's up to me not to screw it up. No.
Did he? So he added an addition. How many stalls was that?
The original barn had 24 cows.
Okay.
So he added another 20, make it 44. Then in '91, we added on the back behind the barn cleaner to run another 12 cows in and out. We're always running cows in and out.
Yep.
Milk 10, run them out, milk another 10. So we always tried to keep it around that 50 plus. And then, like I said, he put the dryer up in '77, and then he built the second bin in '78, and then the third one, I think, in the early '80s. But he added both the pole sheds. I know I built the shop in 2009, and probably the only good thing I've ever bought at the right thing was this shed. I bought it February COVID.
Yep.
I got $65,000 stuck in this whole shed.
Yeah.
And I know I talked to the salesman that fall, that was all the fill work, the electrical, that was everything. And I talked to him, I said, what's the shed cost this fall? It was up over $30,000, just the material.
Yeah.
That was through Cleary.
Yeah.
But, for years, I was renting guys pole sheds that had quit milking. Because with the seed business, I had all these seed tenders and weigh wagons, and we just got more equipment. I didn't have room for it. And then I always was going to build a shed over the other farm. And I remember Jerome Kane, who was a good friend of mine, I was telling him that. He's like, Kevin, that's stupid. Then your equipment's still 3 miles away. You're not going to pull the corn planter out in March and drive it home 3 miles.
No.
He said, give up a little cropland and build it at home. And I did. It was the smartest thing I ever did, because it is nice, to have stuff inside. But
that's what keeps equipment.
yeah, but I mean, me and my son bought a semi. I said I'd never own a semi. A goddamn reason to have a semi around here. Well, then he comes back and buys 180 acres. We got more acres. Well, now I own a semi and a trailer. So, but, he does all the grain hauling. I used to haul my own grain. Couturiers, I would just be under their authority.
Yep.
And that was kind of nice. I'd just go get a semi. If it had a flat tire, I'd say, we got a flat tire. I'd put fuel in out of their barrel. I mean, there is a cost to having all this stuff.
It's terrible.
My personal insurance, on the equipment and all this stuff, 3 years ago, it was under $10,000. Now it's $17,000 a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I spend on insurance a year.
It's crazy. And then your licenses, I just got the thing for the semi, or even those grain trucks,
Yeah.
straight trucks. I don't know how long. There's one chunk of ground we run. We can't get a semi up the hill road,
Yep.
60 some acres. Basically, the only reason I have them.
They are, for some of those small pieces like that I rent, you can't beat the straight truck because you can, even if it's wet, you can just park it in on the driveway.
Yep. And it's, like I said, that Mack is an 80, I think it's an 86 or an 84.
Yep.
And then COVID money bought the other grain truck. When they were giving out money, just to have another straight truck. I bought that International. But
yeah, there's a place for a straight truck yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've used mine to haul sand when I built a bin. I hauled my own fill sand.
There's a lot of uses for them yet.
They're all right.
I mean, when we were done, the last 2 years, there's a farmer over in Lund that hauls all his corn to the local feed mill. Well, my trucks go out there. He's an old 80-some-year-old farmer. Doesn't have a truck, so, once a day, just go out and rotate trucks and haul them downtown for him and stuff. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I actually enjoy driving those old straight trucks, because the Mack has got the double shifter.
Yep.
And then the International is the round robin. So that's a little different shifting too.
Yep.
But that's got a Detroit in too, so I kind of like that International.
Oh, that's got a...
Yeah, it's got a Detroit.
That 692 or...
I think so. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but yeah, so I just love that, driving that one too. I'm just a Detroit fan, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. So then that was... There weren't too many guys around here that farmed with one, but Faldy's up by us had one. I think they bought almost new. I can't remember if that's a 1900 or 1950.
Yeah.
But I seen this was kind of wild that it's from Vermont.
Yeah, and when somebody must have had it on like a sawmill, because when I bought it, the air cleaner was all full of sawdust.
Oh. Yeah, the GM diesel and...
Yeah, but I mean, it's a straight... I mean, someday it might look like the one next to it. I might paint it up, but, that was a nice thing on this tractor here. I remember we ran chains on it and everything in winter.
Yep.
There wasn't one dent in this tractor. It had to be fixed.
Huh.
The fenders were all good. You know what the fenders usually were like when you had chains on.
Oh, yeah.
Clank, clank. And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no, there wasn't. I mean, all these tractors, even the 1600, which was our loader tractor, I mean, it's pretty much straight as an arrow. I mean, you wouldn't have a lot invested in fixing them up.
Yep.
But,
These things, like this thing wouldn't even start today without ether, would it?
No.
They need ether when it's warm.
Yeah, I had it on the feed mill because I had the 40/40 on an auger because filling the one bin with corn, and so I like to get it out and use it at least once or twice a year.
Yep.
Especially those Detroits, But like somebody says, well, it leaks oil. I said, well, and then if it didn't leak oil, it wouldn't be a Detroit.
Yeah. Well, there wouldn't be any oil in it. If it ain't leaking, there must not be any oil in it.
Yeah.
I wonder what that sticker was up there for.
I imagine somebody threw it on and,
That must be original paint.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sure if that's original engine, though, because I see some yellow.
Oh.
I wonder if there isn't an industrial in there.
Could be.
Because I had a 2050. Neighbors of mine, Beekles, that had some pulling tractors back in the day, they had found it. And they asked me if I wanted to buy it. And I had it for about 3 years. But it didn't grow on me. I had no story behind it.
Yeah.
I ended up selling it. But that didn't have the original engine in it. It had a military engine in it. Somebody had swapped it out.
Yep, because they were Hercules.
Yeah.
The big Hercules, right? Like they were
Yeah. But it's, like I said.
This one have duals at one point?
It did have.
Huh.
And see, when I bought it, it had rice tires on, the real wide ones.
Yep.
And a farmer friend of mine, Dale Crass, had bought these used tires to put on his Massey articulator, he thought one day. And I said, you ever want to sell it? Because I mean, they're not new, but they look better than I had one rice tire and one normal tire. And
Yep.
it just looked like, I wasn't happy with it. So I bought them from Dale and put them on. And
Were they 23 134s or were they 24 532s or something?
they were bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a.
And I know then this thing was packed full of wheel weights. And so I took all the wheel weights off all the tractors. And I mean, the 1800, I took the fluid out, it's
Yeah.
only saved the rims, but yeah. So I got the wheel weights and the front end for sale on an Oliver site. The guys are paying decent money for wheel weights. That's ridiculous.
Huh.
$1 a pound.
Yeah, that's like IH suitcase weights.
Yep.
Just crazy, but I don't know.
You don't want a rock box for an IH, do you?
No.
Yeah, I can't give that thing away. I bought that from Jerome Kane.
Well, that 7130?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it came with the rock box. I was just laying around here somewhere. But we took that off and I put it, a farmer friend of mine gave me the John Deere bracket. Larry Swanson had those weights made years ago.
Down at Myers, probably.
Yeah, he sold me them for like $10 a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to do a little finagling to get it on there. But, because we thought when I bought that 1780 interplant planter, the idea was that was going to run it. And I
Oh,
bought this from Jerome Kane, and I didn't do my research because the hydraulic flow on this is only 20
yeah,
some
they're.
pounds or gallons, and so it just didn't do it. And we wanted a two-wheel drive tractor because at the time we had a round baler. They're just so much more convenient
Yep.
for getting around the two-wheel drive tractors. And so then it went off that, and we used it on the vertical till because it's pushing 200 horsepower.
Oh, they're a strong.
Yeah.
They're strong tractors.
I mean,
they really are.
It's got 4,000 hours on it.
That's it?
That's it.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Jerome had bought it. He was going to buy a 6-row or 8-row planter and someday put on, and he never did.
Is that 2 reverse or 4 reverse on that one?
2.
Okay.
And both of them are, you can crawl faster than reverse goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, reverse is.
Well, I seen the black on the back of the cab, but is that triple or is that 4? It's triple remotes then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought for a second there I saw a 4th lever, but
No,
so it must be an earlier. Yeah, it's an earlier Magnum. They
Yep.
must have changed the
I
stickers.
think it's I'm gonna say an 89.
Probably. Yeah, 'cause
It's not even a 90. I don't think.
yeah, it says Case IH instead of Magnum.
Yeah.
And then the black on the back of the cab, but
The only
they're-
thing I don't like about it is this was designed for when your diesel fuel tank was up on the stand and it was gravity flow. Because where the tank is, I got to run my pump just barely on the first notch because it can't go away fast
Yeah.
enough, no matter how we park the tractor.
Yep.
But it's and the short wheelbase, because I never had an International. I know when I bought this, my youngest son Tyler said, "Dad, bumper would kill you. Why do you?" And it's like, well, the price was right and whatever, Because I was looking at a John Deere 8200 two-wheel drive because I
Yep.
wanted a two-wheel.
They're so ugly in 2-wheel drives.
They
aren't
are, but here's the only reason I bought this. I had to go borrow the money for that.
Yeah.
Jerome, he wanted payments over. I paid him interest, obviously, but I didn't. He financed it. He didn't
Yep.
want to be paid in one lump sum. So I mean, we put different lights on it because, of course, the lights were bad. It's kind of like that 8450 we bought a few years ago. We upgraded all the lights
Yep.
because those old, you can't see nothing.
Yeah.
But so it does all the hay mowing and it runs the bale processor. So that it's going to run every week in wintertime, chopping up round bales to feed the beef cattle and stuff. So
I can't believe it's only 4,000 hours.
Yeah.
That's that is a pretty low one.
And
So what he did, I wonder if they repainted the hood, because this looks like that'd probably be original.
yeah,
And they didn't. If they were repainting the whole tractor, they would have repainted the top part red. So this one dual PTO.
yep. It didn't have it. Brad Olmsted, a local mechanic, we put it on
Yep.
the dual
Yeah.
PTO and got a used one and put it on.
They're a real good tractor.
I got a set of duals that are like brand new for it. I shouldn't. I always think I should just sell the duals, but you never know. You might need it in spring.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
But it's what did one guy call them? They call them these the box cars.
yeah.
They're
Yep.
not with the short wheelbase. They're a little rough driving it, and maybe it's the two-wheel drive that does that. My cousin.
Probably because you're used to bigger front tires.
Yeah, I know my cousin Mark Niebur. I think he bought a 7120 he picked up this year. And he put a little bigger tire on the front.
Yeah.
He used that for a spraying tractor. But the two-wheel drive tractors we had were the Olivers. What was I going to do with them? They couldn't
Right.
do nothing, and they didn't have a cab.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
These, to run an auger nowadays, if you got a 10-inch or 13-inch auger, you can't do that with a
Nope.
little tractor anymore.
No,
You just
you just can't.
no. These were. I mean, they're a good tractor. They're a decent cab. I guess my only complaint, like there's slow shifting because
Yep.
you got to clunk through the
Yep.
gears. And,
Yep, they do.
like there's no shuttle shift to
No,
it. It's
no.
and
Yeah. It's not. I remember the 4240 we had a power shift.
Yep.
That was a lot smoother than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got a 4040 open station?
Yep.
Really? Yeah. Not too many of those.
No, we did a top end overhaul on that 2 winters ago. It's got like 9,000 hours on it.
Yep.
They looked at the crank and said, "No, Kevin, let's do it just runs the grinder in August. It doesn't
Yeah.
do nothing, anymore."
Yep. Well,
know?
they're a cool tractor.
Yeah, they're a nice tractor. It's a nice tractor. They're a nice tractor. That 4040. I mean, we've had that. Like I said, I think that was the second John Deere Dad bought, and I mean, I've had that a long time.
Wasn't very old when you got it though.
No, it wasn't. It was used, but it wasn't very old. But it had a loader on it, and like I said, he planned with it for a lot of years till he seen all the neighbors planting with cabs, and he took the 4240 and said, "No, this is stupid."
Well, I remember guys saying that they could hear the planter, if they with an open station, and it's like, no, I'd rather.
Well, and the thing was, what I hated about doing it was, every spring we had to narrow the tractor up.
Yeah.
So you're pounding on that axle with a maul to get that, and then you did the front tires. Well, then we wanted to widen it out for baling, and cutting hay, because you didn't want
Oh yeah.
the rocking, and all the gopher mounds or whatever. But I mean that's the 7410. That's been. I think I bought that we traded the 4240 off. That only had like 4,000 hours. That's been a damn good tractor.
Yeah, people really like those.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
Good tractor.
it's funny how equipment has gotten. I mean, these tractors right here still seem like they're pretty new, but
They're not.
no.
No, I mean like
Yeah.
that one. I always know how old that tractor is because it's a year younger than me.
Yeah.
It's 60 years old.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure the 88's older than that. That's a 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy how fast time goes, and not like those tractors there isn't a whole lot of jobs you do with tractors that size anymore.
No, like I said, they run. Any of these three will run the feed mill. I'll put them all on at least a couple times a year just to get them used. And the 88 will run the 8-inch auger for little jobs.
Yep.
But I mean, it's just, my kids always say, "Why you keep them?" Well, I don't know. Why not?
When my great grandpa got old, they never got rid of the draft horses. They got to retire and live there on the farm till they died.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same way it is with the tractors.
Yeah,
They earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They earn the right to sit in the shed right there.
Yeah.
That's the first thing when I built this shed. I said, okay, these 4 tractors are sitting there all the time.
Yep. Yep.
And like I said, getting that one back to the narrow front, I mean, I understood why Dad, because he said he took the narrow front off and put the wide front on by himself. And that was long before impacts, hydraulic jacks. I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Yeah.
And, but, hauling manure in the winter with snow and the narrow front.
Oh, yeah.
Just nothing.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, thanks, Kevin.
You bet. Thank you, Ryan. Glad you came out.
You guys want to hear a really quiet tractor? Yeah, check out 1950 Vermont. I don't know if that's Charlie Trucker's neighbor or what, but.
No better sound.
Yeah. Well, they're a good tractor to have on PTO use if you're pumping manure or something. If the tractor runs out of fuel, you know it.
Well, the stock muffler on here is even loud. I mean, Hince's down here in the valley had one. I just don't see other guys' farms all day. But
Oh.
even the stock, I mean, they're loud.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're.
Yeah,
That's
loud.
yeah. You almost got to have ear protection
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
But
I know when I put the straight pipe on, oh, my son was so mad. It's like, we used to put it on the auger when we chopped stocks.
yeah,
The 7410 had to come off, so this ran the 13-inch auger. Oh, you can scream all morning.
Oh, yeah.
Right by the house, too.
yeah. Well, that's then everybody in the neighborhood knows you're working. See?
Yep, that's right.
And that 23 134s look. She looks pretty mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.